Like watching Tron in 3D was the best mistake I could have ever made. It wasn't intentional because I wear glasses. So typically I lean away from putting glasses on top of my glasses. But I'm so happy that I saw this in 3D because it worked perfectly for all the tech and the grid and the weaponry. So I'm excited. I was curious if you saw it in 3D or just the traditional.
Oh man, um, I saw it twice in 3D. I've been doing my part in getting out to see Tron Ares, but both times 3D, and the second time Dolby Cinema, and it was
Oh, that's great. The layering with the sound and the 3D with like the neon circuits, the glowing grids, it really is the perfect like way to emphasize it. And I feel like the people who thought it was a little lackluster, I wish I could have thrown them into the 3D theater because it really does like level it up. I was hoping you had seen it twice because I would think that you would agree with me that this is one that you kind of have to see in 3D.
thrown them into the grid to suffer
Yes.
the hellscape of the Dillinger grid. Yeah, no, that's man, we're here back to talk some Tron on the Thoughtcast, conversations about animation. I'm Philip. Thank you, Jody, for joining me from way out in Georgia. I'm here in northern Minnesota. And yeah, we saw Tron Ares this past weekend, opening weekend. And I'm a huge Tron fan. Thank you, Jody, for being willing to indulge me.
No, of course. Actually, I'm pretty sure we were both on the episode together with the 1982 version. And I think we both talked about Tron Legacy as well. Like, I think 2010 is when that one came out. So it's fitting that we're doing Tron Ares together as well.
Yeah, I
And
made
I
sure to,
loved
yeah.
this one. I almost like I really did like Tron Legacy, but Tron Ares I feel like was the sequel that the original Tron needed. Because it really was for people who didn't maybe listen to us talk about it back then, that movie was like very cutting edge. It was like one of the first to use like the extensive computer graphics and stuff. And it's sort of like I would say like a cult classic, or maybe it's more popular than a cult classic. There's a Disney ride Tron, but I, would you call it a cult classic? I don't know what defines that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially considering it wasn't a super mainstream hit. That's sort of the definition of a cult classic. I mean, sometimes people refer to like I've heard Star Wars referred to as a cult classic,
Oh,
but I guess in the sense that it literally has spawned a cult of fans that do take it to, just such an extremely religious, devotion. But, Tron probably less passionate fan base when it comes to that just ability to practice you know a level of um discipleship, shall we say.
yeah.
uh,
I think it gives viewers, like people really like that they got to get sucked into like another world. And that's essentially the grid, which is referred to in all three movies. And what stuck out to me is there's a couple other movies that it reminded me of, like Osmosis Jones, where the germs and the medicine fight inside the body. Like the body is a world. And then like Wreck-It Ralph obviously is like the internet. Like this one created the grid. And what was super interesting is with Tron Ares, it's sort of like a step further because this time, instead of humans going into that like digital realm, they get to kind of flip it. So now the digital realm gets to come to the real world. And I thought that was awesome and very, I mean, there's bits about AI, and I thought it was a very timely thing too, because I think right now everybody kind of is talking about AI and all the bad that comes with it. But in this movie, it's sort of like the good guys, bad guys, and one sees how AI can be worked for good. They essentially have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have these lasers and they know how to create things out of nothing, basically, right?
the lasers, yeah, they generate
In the
physical
human world,
matter.
in the real
Yep.
world. Mhm.
I mean, it can't be ultimately from nothing, here goes nothing or here goes something. That's the line from the movie. I guess the lasers are capable of sort of converting some sort of energy, um, either like an energy signal or some fuel. I guess using lasers to 3D print things, which is a technology that I don't think has yet to exist in the real world, but it'd be really cool. But yeah, I suppose that they would be powered by some kind of substance, a substrate or a plasma, or who knows. Yeah,
I,
it's
I
crazy.
feel like something like this could be totally possible. And the premise is basically there's like the good guys Encom and then the bad guys Dillinger. And the actor, I did not look up the IMDb, but the actor for like the bad guy, the grandson of Ed
Yeah,
Dillinger,
he's good. He's Evan Peters. He's
he is
amazing.
great. I
Mhm.
thought he was awesome. And he wants to use it for profit. She kind of wants to use it for like humanity. And essentially they're trying to figure out how to make things permanent. And I just thought the plot was really good. I mean, it's not the deepest, like most complicated storyline,
Oh.
but I think that allowed a lot of other elements to shine with it.
Yeah, it's a rich world. It's, popular enough to where, you can find some fun merch, and it's got a ride at Disneyland, which is awesome. I got my little coffee mug from the Tron light cycle run. I haven't ridden it yet, but eventually. But so it's like not as, mass produced as Star Wars, but there's a niche there, which is fun. And I just love the aesthetics of Tron, of course, and the music. Everyone loves the music, especially the Daft Punk album from Tron Legacy 2010. And now 15 years later, we're finally getting this movie, yeah, accompanied by a great soundtrack now from Nine Inch Nails. Pretty fun. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. So lots to enjoy about this release, as long as um, you're cool down with the spectacle of it all. And then as far as like just the overall quality of the film, I mean, I had such a fun time because you get to jump between the real world and the Tron world, and there's just a lot of like rich adventure and action, and just the sights and sounds, the spectacle of seeing it in Dolby Cinema in 3D. Was had I haven't had this much fun at a movie theater in a long time, frankly, and I've been kind of burnt out on media and movies a bit lately, which is why we haven't gotten enough Thoughtcast. Sorry about that since K-pop Demon Hunters.
But not only that, you're a Jared Leto fan, aren't you? As far as I liked him in Morbius. Or are you not so much a fan?
Well, he doesn't have a good reputation really as a
I
person.
know.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with him as an
I
actor.
thought he was, sorry, I'm like jumping in, but I thought he was really great in this. Like, there's something about his eyes and his face in Morbius. I really liked it too. To me, he's just compelling to look at. And having him play this, I guess I don't know how we're, this AI construct or,
Yep. Yeah.
Ares, I guess, whatever Ares is, he's kind of like a war. How should we refer to them?
He's a security program.
Okay, so he's a program. Yeah. I mean, he looks like one. He really fits the part. And from the little bit I did hear about the movie, he pushed for this film to come to be. And I did notice that his name was listed as one of the producers. And I
Yep.
don't know how much of a role he had in all of that, but I think he took this project super seriously. And I really liked that his opposite, the human girl, Eve,
Mhm.
their ages are similar. I think he's like 50 and she's 40 something. And I love that. I love when they're not truly romantic partners in this movie, not to give anything away, but they're kind of like there's this bond growing between them. And I love when it's age appropriate. So I don't know. I thought the casting was great.
Yeah, I wasn't overly like familiar. These aren't actors that you see overexposed in a ton of other big blockbusters right now, which is kind of nice. It's just kind of maybe not the first names you'd think of, but I was very happy to just get to know the characters. And yeah, Jared, I mean, Jared Leto. I people often say I look like him. I guess yeah, I'd certainly
You
agree.
do. Especially now, because I mean, I think he actually oftentimes has his hair worn long, but in
Yeah.
this movie specifically, he wears it like kind of slicked back and down. And now that your hair's been long for quite a while too, it's the eyes and kind of like
Yeah.
the jawline type cheek structure. I don't know, there's just something about that face. You should be in the movies, but
Yeah.
I thought he was really good, and I didn't think any of the acting felt corny or cheesy. Sometimes I feel like when Disney does action, it feels off. And maybe this one was better because they did PG-13 for the rating,
Mhm.
but it felt really on and not too violent. Like the acting was intense without showing a bunch of blood and guts.
Certainly. Yeah, I mean the first Tron films receive a PG-13 rating, and
Oh, okay.
due to I mean it just does kind of go all out in some moments with the action. But of course it's all, bloodless, kind of high tech, lasers and these like light ribbons that come off of the vehicles that can cause damage. And yeah, I guess there's a surprisingly visceral moment of a stabbing that occurs. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit of blood, but I think it's an energy weapon, so I think it mostly just kind of burns the wound as well. So, I mean, I mean, yeah, that was very affecting. I found, you get that surprise, just impact, the jolt of the moment of violence there. Another like really effective moment involving that same antagonistic character, Athena. Uh, I don't know, probably a direct reference to Halloween, if you've seen that, with
Mm-mm.
Michael Myers, like overlooking his body, as in that film, he falls out a window. In this, Athena gets knocked to the ground of a parking garage, and the character, looks over the ledge. She's laying, Athena's laying there, and then you look back over again, and then she's gone from where she got, uh, you know,
Yeah.
splatted. And then all of a
Bladder.
sudden she's running up and that's freaky because you're having to escape this, extremely athletic program that's chasing after you, running up the parking structure.
The chase scenes were great. I mean, essentially, like what these characters are looking for and working for is Eve has come across the permanence code,
Mhm.
and these characters, these warriors from the grid, what did you call them? Programs? Yeah, the program people, they can only last 29 minutes, and you've seen it twice, but when they like explode or when they end,
Mhm.
they're kind of like a weapon in themselves in that moment as well, because they sort of like boom, right?
I
Or do they
don't.
crumble? Maybe they crumble, but there's a part where he's like running at her and he's running out of time. He's sorry, Ares is running towards Athena at a
Mhm.
certain point, and I thought he was about to like explode, but a laser saves him, blah blah blah, not to ruin the plot. But they only have 29 minutes and they all sort of want to have the ability to live indefinitely, forever.
Yeah, the objects that are created by the lasers, the 3D printed, objects from the lasers don't last. But there is I guess, it's theoretically a way to make them permanent, quote unquote, and the secret, which I thought it made sense that the secret kind of ultimately lies with Kevin Flynn, and he's missing. He presumably like dies in at the end of Tron Legacy, and there aren't a lot of direct references to Legacy here, or none of the characters return apart from Flynn as sort of he's more of just a ghostly representation of himself. It's probably not the actual Flynn. But I don't know. He's the same age as Flynn would be. I guess it does heavily imply that this is just a depiction of Flynn, and he says so himself when he says, like, "I am here because you're here." So he's kind of just a reflection. And then he's portrayed as sort of ghostly.
like a
And
hologram, yeah,
yeah.
ghost of himself. Um, but they do make a lot of references back to the beginning. I mean, like the arcade and the video game itself. So yeah, I kind of like that. I like that they're not leaning too much on Tron Legacy and this. I don't know if they ever say what year it is or what time this is sort of taking place, but you'd have to assume like hundreds of years later. Well, actually, at the rate that technology moves, who knows?
No,
Um,
I thought I saw the date. Was it this movie? 2025 listed somewhere. In the the sisters Tess and Eve Kim. Um, are referenced in of course, at the beginning that we're introduced to them through a kind of a flash newsreel sequence. Um, but they do give the date of Tess Kim's death. She dies from like cancer, and
mhm.
it is 2025. I'm
Oh,
guessing,
okay.
yeah, that's maybe what incites Eve to go off grid and look for this permanence code.
You know what? Now that you say that, there are a lot of things in the human world that aren't. Like there's gas stations, there's normal cars, there's normal bridges. It's not, you know, 2,500. You're right. Yeah, that makes sense. But it is just incredible to think of like a technology like this existing and how it really could save the planet. So like to jump back to like what Eve is kind of doing in honor of her sister Tess, but they were both obviously scientists together.
Mhm.
But she's able to create at the beginning an orange tree. And the problem is like the orange tree is only going to last 29 minutes. And so they get that permanence code or whatever. But wouldn't that just be so, as I'm watching it, sometimes I'm like, wouldn't that just be so amazing? You know, and not to ruin the ending, but it is a Disney movie. Like ultimately, the good guys do get the permanence code and the world is healing and the farms are growing plants and the carbon monoxide's going down. And I'm like,
Oh,
let's make this movie a reality, you know?
well,
And bring those weapons. The weapons in this were awesome. They obviously had their normal discs, like the triangular and round discs, but
mm.
I did not remember these staffs that make light walls that they can bounce off of and cut through things. Are those in the previous movies or are these brand new weapons?
There are staff weapons in the previous movies, but I don't think they create their own little ribbon trails. That's kind of fun. It is such a, I don't know, inconvenient encumbrance, to the world in which they're used, where you've got these light strips, these
Yeah, like
ribbons
these trails.
in the way of everything that, the traffic. I mean, I think they're supposed to dissipate after so long. Like they don't just hang around forever, of course, but I mean, they do seem to hang around for a while at least and
Well,
cause a lot of
I was
havoc.
thinking how inconvenient they were when in the real world, as they're driving their chase vehicles, kind of
Mhm.
these.
The light cycles and the like
Yeah,
gliders.
it makes it very easy to be found. You can't really hide because you have this gigantic red glowing tail following you throughout the city.
Mhm.
So not only do they have the tech, within their bikes to find each other, but it's really just like look for the bright light. But I thought it was a very cool. And with the 3D, it just stood out so clear, so pure. Like I don't know if I was sitting in the perfect spot in the theater or how it was for you, but it's been so long since I've seen 3D and it was really not distracting.
Okay.
3D typically is distracting for me, and I just thought this was so great. And maybe it's because it's such a tech movie that it works so well, but I loved those scenes just for the 3D effect alone.
Hmm. Um, the, the light cycles don't have to produce trail. Like you can turn them on and off. But yeah, in this movie they mostly leave them on, much to the uh, disdain of the traffic of. I believe the city in Tron is a fictional city called like Central City or Center City. It's filmed in Vancouver. Um, but Yeah, it's not.
And it's taking place in Seattle. Like the movie is set in Seattle.
Well, the state, I don't know. Yeah, the city in Tron, it's got, it's a fictionalized city. Center City, I think, is what it's called. Like like Gotham City. So it's just kind of a generic name. And and I'm not sure where, if it's maybe supposed to be set in like Silicon Valley. So the world of Tron is slightly a different variation of our own world, and the technology is different. And I guess you could say that um, technology is more alive in the world of Tron than it is in our world, where like the programs can literally manifest as humanoid characters that could be that can even be brought into the real world, which is crazy, but awesome at the same time. So probably not something we'll ever be able to do in our world. Just you never know with AI
You just never
now.
know anymore. And that's that word you were just going to say, otherworld. That is what I was going to say about Jared Leto. He has an otherworldliness, like a little bit of a detached energy. Like he doesn't look fully human sometimes with his eyes, not in a bad way or a good way. He just looks incredible as this role. And the costume designing makes him just look really sculpted and sleek, like truly a digital god. I'm reading a Greek mythology book right now, so I liked the references, like the Athena and the Ares and things like that. And a lot of times in the Greek mythology, it is also kind of like, do they risk their immortality to have something that mortals have? And just kind of that tale as old as time is like, is he going to give up this ability to live forever? Someone had written on TikTok like his code versus his conscience, like which one does he want more? And that's a common theme in Greek stories as well. So I liked that they used the names. But yeah, captivating, otherworldly. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and I mean he's obviously got kind of a Jesus like
There we
aesthetic.
go.
And I don't know. Yeah, it was an interesting choice to have this security program. You would think in kind of the cold, sterile world of the grid, you wouldn't necessarily think of character having long, slick back hair and a big scruffy beard. But no, I mean he makes the Jesus look work well for him. And for Ares, it's fun. And this character that was bred for destruction, basically, yeah, somehow develops a conscience. He's very kind of regimented and disciplined as this program, but he's shown just taking out uh, other programs during his training with without any mercy or remorse. But you do
Right.
see, yeah, he does go back for his fellow comrades when he's on a mission, and he'll help. Yeah, he loves his team, and eventually learns to recognize compassion in humanity. So he's just very observant and very you know astute and erudite, because he does study um, human culture.
Yeah, something cool that they did visually is in when he like so for example, when he meets Eve, he sort of like watches all these little movies, these little pop-ups, moments of her life.
Mhm.
He references that he's able to read through all the texts she's ever sent to anyone ever, which obviously is like a huge invasion of privacy, but because he's curious about her, he wants to know more about her. And not necessarily because he's like in love with her, but like you said, he wants to understand humanity and what's special about it. And he's sort of weighing this all in his head. But visually they were able to make that happen really, really well. And for the acting as well, for him and Athena, both those programs, I think they did a great job showing the progression of him gaining that consciousness, because it's a short movie, what, an hour and a half, maybe?
Well, 2 hours including the credits.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to cut out all those chase scenes because no one's really talking then. But he does a great job of coming into that. And I even think Athena, I really liked her as well. Towards the end, even though she does like meet her demise, I think, right? Ultimately, yeah. Or does she go back to the grid? Well, she has to leave the human world, and I think the grid is also potentially
Yeah,
obliterated. I'm not totally sure. You've
yeah.
seen it twice, but she also seems to have a human thing in her because she's confused about why Jared Leto is doing those things, but also it seems like she had some jealousy, which is a very human emotion for
Mm.
him being the captain or the leader. And I don't know. So, but you explained to me, so I'm pretty sure when it comes to the end, the bad guys don't get to exist anymore. Like they don't get to go back to their grid. It's not the same grid or
Yeah, their grid gets kind of obliterated by the NCOM people who are trying to d defend their um, their assets, their grid, basically, and they get broken into during the convention. So I think they're vulnerable at that time because fewer people are watching the servers, and so now that's when Dillinger sends his program to go try to infiltrate and retrieve the um, permanence code, or at least try to find the location of the permanence code. And that's how they track down Eve. And yeah, then he brings the programs in the real world to try to go and apprehend Eve. Yeah, and, the knowledge, the recon that the briefing, that Ares gets on Eve really does, yeah, provide, or it gives him just intimate knowledge into her life. Yeah, and you do get a sense of like intimacy, but it's sort of a cold, like I don't know, on detached form of like very regimented or what you would expect from like a computer program or someone with a highly analytical brain. It's not. And I think that's how or why people struggle with the Tron movies a little bit. They do feel a little cold, sterile, detached,
well,
hard to engage with on that human level a little bit.
yeah, I'm just thinking of other movies that sort of go into that consciousness of AI. And you've seen the movie Her, right? Where,
I know the concept, but yeah.
yeah, he essentially falls in love with an AI woman, but the AI woman is also finding herself. And she sort of becomes, from the viewer's standpoint, I guess, like colder and colder to him. But
Um,
that's because her brain is like now able to suck in everything from the whole entire world and she's like processing all these things. So to just be in love with one simple man is like not
mm,
like fulfilling to her. You'd have to see it, but
yeah.
I like these types of movies that sort of question it. I mean,
Hmm.
what was that other one we talked I think we talked about Ready Player One.
Okay.
Just
Mm,
anything out in these like I guess that's more about like living in technology, but I like that. Reality versus simulation.
uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things that explore this theme. This one really, I like engaging with the humanity, and myself, like I struggle with kind of resonating or I don't know, being overly sentimental towards other people. And I don't know, socially, like I feel like I'm a little too detached a lot of times. So, just that whole element of these films, it helps me maybe engage with humanity a little more because it's coming from a place of difficulty engaging to begin with, and then just being able to sort of process things through a more analytical kind of
Lens.
stripped down lens.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Something where it's not as just intuitive and from our natural like empathy, compassion, gut. It's a way to help engage those emotions, empathy, if you're maybe someone who who dissociates from that a little too readily. Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about the exhibition, seeing it in 3D. You said you find 3D kind of distracting. I think I maybe have in the past for whatever reason now, and I don't know, my like I've been dealing with stuff in my life, and I've been you know trying to get a grip on some chronic inflammation that I have been experiencing just for a number of years, and like it seems to have gotten just worse and worse um, lately, and makes me just lose kind of a lot of motivation and even enjoyment of things like media and films have been somewhat of a struggle for me
They've
just to
like
try to
lost their luster, kind of like they're not drawing you in as much.
having to focus intently on something like that for an extended period of time, 2 hours. It doesn't it's usually not as appealing to me. But I've been able to you know really try to take some action to curb these symptoms and stuff, that have been much more successful, and I've just been so stubborn and petulant in dealing with it. But honestly, so just obstinate, and now just having to try to take some positive action has made a bit of a difference. So like I was feeling kind of on the top of my game this past weekend, wanting to see Tron, and then really loving my experiences that I had in the movie theaters.
Yeah, so for you, maybe the 3D like kind of just helps with that immersion. Like if you're
Yeah,
struggling to really like connect with the movie, just bringing that next level of living it. Do you know what I mean? That depth,
yeah.
that perception, it kind of pushes you probably a little bit further into, suspending your disbelief because I know it's not as common for me, but I know that feeling sometimes where you're just not attached to what you're watching, and it's sort of a bummer when typically a film or like a song or a podcast will pull you in and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't even like for
Mhm.
me right now. So maybe that is why the 3D for you, just having a little extra of that atmosphere that you might have lost in 2D. I mean, not only that, it's a movie you're excited about, but it probably
Yeah.
didn't hurt to have that element sort
Yeah,
of capture your attention.
it was weird. It's like now I would find going to see a 3D movie perhaps less distracting because I'm able or there is no like barrier, this artificial 2D effect that you get when you look at a flat screen is no longer present. And you can just look straight through the screen into the action of the world, of the film itself. And because I don't know, they're really good at making that illusion so seamless, at least for certain films, if they're shot in the correct way, if they're processed, in the right way. I really found this just automatically inviting to look straight through the screen and into the world of the film. Um, However, I don't know if it's just this movie or if any movie where probably not just any movie, because I don't know, like the conversion process can be tricky.
Mhm.
But I love seeing movies in 3D. I find, at least
So,
with the
how
first
do you
one.
feel when you come out of a movie and you sort of like emerge from it? When you see other people that maybe call it a flop, does that ever affect? So, for everyone listening, I did look up the reviews and it's like 50 out of 100 or 50. I mean, it's relatively mediocre reviews. I agree with Philip. Like, I think it was fantastic. I'm so happy I saw it in theaters. But does it ever bring you down, or can you kind of just like look past the Rotten Tomatoes scores and things like that? Do you know what I mean? Like, so you came out of it and you're like, wow, that was not life changing, but great. And then you see other people being like, well, I didn't like this, and I didn't like that. Does that ever affect your satisfaction? Is my question.
I tend to resonate pretty well with a lot of things that are popular and mainstream, but if I happen to really love something that doesn't necessarily have that same reaction, of course, this was sort of intended to be for a wide audience because it has a high production value. I don't know, a touch under $200 million budget. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, it'd be nice to see this really have a huge reception, but these movies never really have, and they probably just aren't for everyone. And of course, I don't think Jared Leto is much of a draw because of some of the people, and he does have kind of a weird vibe just on screen, especially as a lead.
Weird is not the word, but yeah.
I don't know. Well, and he, I mean, he's better as a supporting actor, I feel. Remember he was in American Psycho? Have you
Oh,
seen
it's been forever.
that?
Yes. Yes.
The famous scene with the Norman, what's his name?
Bates? No, no, sorry.
Isn't that the
Different
Psycho
movie.
guy?
Um,
American Psycho. Patrick Bateman, I
yeah.
think.
Yes, Patrick Bateman.
And he's describing music, and he is doing it in a very like clinical, matter of fact. This is why I love the musical stylings of Huey Lewis and the Blues. It's very calculated, and this movie I think riffs on that. Jared Leto, he's a producer, he had creative involvement in this. So yeah, I heard this from someone else, but yeah, this movie almost directly references American Psycho and the moment where Patrick Bateman's about to kill Jared Leto's character in that film, and he's describing his love of Huey Lewis and the news, and he's doing it in such just like this analytical way, and because the character is a sociopath, so he doesn't really.
Yeah, he's like unsettlingly like calm. He's just
Yeah.
unhinged but polished at the same time.
Mhm.
I read the book. I like the movie because there's humor
Mm.
in it. You know, you can't help but laugh, but reading the book was really like traumatizing. Um, that's one we could talk about. I know that's not animated at all, but that movie is something else. And you're right. I wouldn't have thought to think of those things side by side, but now that you're saying it out loud, I do see that off energy, the different energy, the weird energy.
But the character Ares eschews that sort of cold approach to music when he's talking to, of course, the heart and soul of Tron, the Kevin Flynn, who is very bohemian. He's very, hip and laid back. He's the dude from The
Mhm.
Big Lebowski, and ultimately he abandons his attempt to, break down in this calculated way his love of Depeche Mode, and just says, it's just, I guess, ultimately a feeling.
Yeah, ultimately a feeling, which yeah, like leans in even more to his like self-discovery. Speaking of, I really like the visual throwback. There's a portion of this movie where Ares has to go back to the 80s grid.
Hmm.
And it's kind of this homage sort of to like the 1980s, what was it, 1982? But it was
Yeah.
really cool seeing that older style grid
Hmm.
sequence, where you notice the difference between like the vehicles they travel in and the way they have to follow the lines, like doot, 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 sort of like Pac-Man, just very minimalist, high contrast, like retro future looking.
Right.
I thought those scenes were really fun. And oh, a word he'll say or he said throughout the movie is classic, you know?
Yeah.
And just these classic moments or these classic cars he's getting in. I thought that was a really great thing to include. I already have forgotten why he had to go back to the 80s, but
Um,
it's up there
um,
and it was very cool.
well, he had to preserve his life, by getting sucked back into the computer in some way. And they decided to put him on this 80s grid. I think that program probably dated from 1989, which was when Kevin Flynn disappeared. So it's a little bit newer, updated version of the original Tron, but you see all the symmetry, and that's of course when he's able to access that permanence code because that's the program where they found the hidden code from that old classic, or that ancient floppy disk that would have
Hmm.
been, yeah, property of Kevin Flynn. And I guess part of why we know that Flynn would have had some kind of ability to generate this permanence encoding is the ending of Tron Legacy, where Sam and Olivia Wilde's character Cora, who was a program, she's able to come into the real world and become human.
You're
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I might need to revisit Tron Legacy because and I'm happy that this one had not much to do with it, but I had forgotten that as well. Um, how that had gone.
hmm
And that's why I do hope, looking at other people's reviews, I do hope that there's enough like audience attention and audience reaction to do another one because in true Disney fashion, I feel like this is a Disney movie, right? I keep saying that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. In true Disney fashion, they do leave the door open for something more to happen at the end. And I would love to see where the story continues to go. I don't know if these are based on books like Dune. Like, I don't know if I can go in and read. So, oh no. Okay.
Well, I'm sure there are novelizations of the Tron films thus far. I would imagine. I
But not like Lord of the Rings, where there's this series out there that came out back in the 70s or something like that, right?
No, these originated as film concepts.
Okay. Well, I want the story to continue and I want them to bring back the same actors. The guy who plays Dillinger, um,
Yeah, Evan
he is
Peters,
it's a show that I don't watch, but I think, is it American Horror Story? Is that where he
possibly.
comes from? But he has such a familiar face and he plays a really good bad guy. I love when bad guys kind of look like little boys in a way. Like he looks like a child that grew up and now he has all this power that he doesn't know how to like handle it. He becomes ultimately the CEO after his mother has taken over. Or
Mm.
no, he's taken over like after her. And I would like to see where his journey goes from here because it sort of ends you on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, he's in a lot of that American Horror Story series. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either,
Yeah,
but I've seen the trailers for them or what do you call it? Promos.
sure. Yeah, that's definitely. He plays Jeffrey Dahmer in the series
Oh,
Monster.
that's it. Yes. Okay. I've seen that fairly recently. And again, a bad guy. I mean, and with Jeffrey Dahmer, I mean, you guys know the story. Philip, you know the story, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, if you don't, there's a movie you could watch. But again, like that weird bad guy thing where you're not totally sure if they're a bad guy or they're just messed up and I don't know. It worked really, really well.
Yeah, yeah, the abduct Eve into the Dillinger grid, this red hellish. I mean, it's the same kind of structure as the grid from Tron Legacy. Kind of the same, very sleek. Um, but only this primarily uses the color red in its the Tron lines. The classic um, you know, what would you call that? The ribbon line, that
The light trails. I mean, it's sort
the
of like
light
if a
trails.
shooting star, well, no, but
Yeah.
yeah, like a shooting star had that tail following it. But like you said, the tail sort of lasts forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, yeah, it's all red in the Dillinger, in the world of that because Dillinger was a villain from the original Tron. He started his own company, Dillinger Systems, and yeah, it's meant to look sinister. Uh,
And Encom is the light blue, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Jared Leto, when
He's ordered to kill Eve basically to get the code because Eve has seen the code, so they can extract it from her. Yeah.
and it's never like essentially said, I like that. Like Dillinger never says, go kill her, but he references do anything necessary or something like that. And that phrasing sort of comes back to haunt him because the way that he said it and the way that he instructed it both to Ares and to Athena, I mean, if you're in the way of the goal, by any means possible would mean like, ultimately getting rid of you. And I did kind of see that coming. When he said it like that, I thought maybe there'd be some type of twist that came along with it. But my question was, when Ares, is there a scene where he turns like his lights are white? So is that Encom? Is he blue,
Um,
I guess?
well,
His
he
suit
gets,
changes.
yeah, his suit does change after meeting with Flynn. He's
Okay.
kind of and he's given the permanence code by Flynn. And yeah, I think that is after, yeah, once he exits the the Flynn grid, the old 80s, and he's given the permanence code, he would, yeah, he now is permanent Aries. I guess the
Mhm.
problem though with I guess the way that works is he only gets one go around. He can't just be endlessly rebuilt like he was when he only was able to last for 29.
This
Yeah.
this happens in all of the Greek mythologies too. Like they'll fall in love with a human and they'll give up their immortality and then they have like this very short life because obviously gods live for not decades, like hundreds and hundreds of years, centuries. And in the book, and I mean, he doesn't give it up for love. I think he was on this route. I texted Philip I messaged Philip when we were done watching. I was like, man, I wish they would have kissed because it really isn't a love story, or if it is, it's an underdeveloped one. It's not really the plot at all. But I was hoping that they would end up together or something. But I think, in today's world, like she's a boss babe, she's a feminist, like they weren't gonna have her end like marrying him. But there is a little bit of hope because he becomes human and he decides to sort of like travel the world and like take it all in and see all there is to see. But I think you're meant to assume that they will find each other
Mm.
later once he's
Yeah.
had his human experience.
Yeah, I don't know why yeah, she maybe could have gone up and really planted one on him,
Yeah, that
especially,
would have been so sweet. There was a lot of moments, just like little looks that the actors shared with each other that felt you really do feel their bond. And it wasn't too much of that like enemies to lovers, like fake banter, weird stuff. It was very natural. So that was my one thing. That was my one little wish that I would have changed. Is there anything, I guess, when you were watching it where you're like, didn't like that? Like, was there anything that stuck out to you that felt, or not
really?
didn't like, but that you would have
Um,
changed looking back?
yeah, not really. I mean, it really did just kind of scratch all the itches for me. Um, yeah, I can't really say, I mean, one of the more head scratchy things, I guess, is like why, it does Kevin Flynn show up as the Jeff Bridges, the age he is in real life. And I get, that's fine. I'm glad they didn't bother to do any sort of VFX to de-age him. In at least for those main scenes, there was a scene of him on TV in the beginning that might have been a de-age sequence, and it doesn't sound like him and the way he sounded back in 1989. It sounds more like a 70-year-old, yeah, Jeff Bridges, in that flashback. But um, like, yeah, just I suppose, just the way the programs are kind of alive in the Tron world, they can be designed to sort of age and evolve um, like they would in the real life in real world. Um, and then a 1989 program like the
Or
one,
maybe,
yeah,
I mean, like aside from like you said, like just like using the actor and the way the actor organically looks, but maybe like in the game or in his experience, like the way he looks the way a mentor or a guiding figure would potentially, look and be respected. If I don't know, we don't really respect our elders like that much anymore, I don't think, but maybe that was part of it too. But yeah, probably more than anything, having his little cameo. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a crucial part to the plot. It's not like a cameo that you just throw in, but
No, that's good. Yeah, the Ghost Flynn. I mean, and of course, like, what if you re-entered that? program in another 25 years when Kevin Flynn is long dead. I suppose
Would he
he'd
be
still be the
dust?
the old and yeah, I don't know.
He
Um,
might be that little in the 80s grid, there's sort of like a light skimmer or something, a little blob that's like boop, bloop, boop, boop. It's just this blurb of a
are you talking about the bit?
yeah, the little bit. I didn't
Oh
know what
yeah,
it was. This little
yeah.
skimmy guy that's bouncing around. Maybe that's what Jeff Bridge would be in 25 years. Nope,
I don't
nope,
know.
nope.
Um, yeah, it just it was fun to see him and the wisdom and humanity he brought, to the film. It's much needed when this is, yeah, it's very intense, and this movie is just very kind of full throttle in a lot of ways. And yeah, there are some like kind of clunky exposition dump scenes when they're in the car together. But he has to move fast. Ares, and Eve, and he knows all this information about her, so um, he can just lay it all out there in this really quick, rapid fire fashion. And I didn't mind that at all. I like that they were able to kind of banter a bit.
And
Um,
I mean, when you only have 29 minutes, like you said, you just got to go for it.
mhm.
You don't have a lot of time for subtleties. Yeah, no. Well, that's good that you watched it and there was nothing that you would like ultimately change. That means it
Oh,
like, what do you call it? Punched your ticket or
yeah,
whatever.
it's a funny moment of color when she has to use the gas station attendant's phone, and she uses the magazine cover to
Yeah.
prove her identity. Yeah,
And she has to do that kind of,
she does
she's making this sort of like intense, sort of like
yeah,
punk face,
like a
and she has to do it. And then she's like, oh, why
catchphrase.
are you $10,000? And then she takes the car and she's like, oh, why are you $50,000 more? I gotta go. I gotta go. He's like, that's my car.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's
That
the
was
sort of
funny. I liked that scene.
the fact that you get some of the vehicle vehicle porn in this movie, like a souped up Honda Civic or whatever is another example of like you know a vehicle in real life that's kind of sexy, and you see it driving around at high speeds. And the other films had like motorcycles and stuff. Sam had the Ducati in Tron Legacy, for example. And there's just like
Um,
yeah, a general
I
vein to
mean,
that.
Eve has a motorcycle in the beginning of the movie that she's riding. I will say, just because I'm terrified of motorcycles and I think they're just very reckless, like personally, they freak me out. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, she's the CEO. I don't know if she's the CEO, but she's this very important figure for this ginormous company. She's the only one who has permanence code. And she's reckless enough to be driving a motorcycle. I remember thinking, being like, well, at least she has her helmet on. And that's how I know I'm in my 30s, because I
Mhm.
couldn't truly enjoy it because I was like, one little bump and she's gonna topple right over. She's gonna break her neck.
Yeah, no, most of my media consumption nowadays is actually like racing related.
Yeah,
Formula
I could
One.
tell. Well, you have the hat on, even the merch.
I've got my Mercedes or Ferrari hat on. Yeah, that's like I have difficulty engaging with a lot of media at the moment. I've actually been able to get back into video games a bit, which is great. It really just helps with kind of my my symptoms, if I'm able to kind of approach it in the right way. You
Well,
know,
do they have a Tron video game so you can blend?
I
You'd think
don't,
they would have
yeah,
a Tron video
I,
game,
I
right?
played, yeah, I played some of one Tron video game, kind of fell off. It just
Eh.
didn't pull me in so much. So if there was a really good one, but I've actually just kind of gone back and started playing some games that I've already played several times, but they're some of my favorites from childhood. So like they've got that nostalgic punch for me in a really kind of profound way back when I was just really obsessed with like video games and just being able to dive into those sort of immersive worlds, and doing so now with those familiar spaces is much easier because I've got that existing nostalgic connection. It'd be harder to play a new game, but I'm
Mm.
hoping that engaging with these ones from my childhood will help rekindle kind of the love and excitement that I had the gaming in general, and so I can maybe transition to some newer stuff at some
Yeah,
point.
it's like the tinder of a fire. It's like, okay, well, this is my tried and true. Let's spark it up. And then other things catch. As long as you don't give up on the film world completely, because who are we going
Yeah.
to talk to about things like Tron Ares if you decide to be a video game only guy?
No, no, I've still been going to see stuff, and like I saw one battle after another, and I want to see the Smashing Machine, and yes, so some of these you know more prestige style movies. I saw The Conjuring, and yeah, so I've been going out to stuff, but beyond that, it's it can be, I have to be in the right mood. But yeah, I know we've been chatting for a bit, and I got to let you go, but yeah, I mean, I was really happy that, and I go into these Tron movies, even with Legacy, just based on the trailers alone, of that origin or of Tron Legacy, I was like, well, this looks like the coolest thing ever, and I went into it with high hopes, and I just really dug it. Just, I
Yeah.
mean, the style, maybe just the style over substance of it all, which really helps if you're not
Yeah.
if you're not turned off by sort of that lack of maybe the best script, the best storytelling imaginable. You just really love you dig the vibe, the world, and the music obviously is so great. And then
The
the
music.
opening logo of the castle. Sorry, my
No,
last
no.
note. I love that look of the castle.
Yes, I do too. And I'm happy that we both really like, well, on one hand, I was like, well, maybe if I hate it and Philip liked it, that'll be an interesting conversation. But I feel the same way you did. Well, I walked in with sort of no expectation. I was like, well, I get to be away from my baby and I get to eat some popcorn. Like, let's see where this goes. I guess it's 3D. And then bada bing, bada boom. I loved it. A good blend of fun CGI and a good enough plot and great characters, great acting. And like I said, I hope they'll make another one.
Yeah, yeah, very, very fun. It's sort of like a Star Wars adjacent type of world. The ships, the yeah, motorsports, going fast. Gotta go, like Sonic the Hedgehog. Gotta go fast.
Uh-huh.
And its own thing in many ways because it's so stylistically unique, especially that original Tron is just such a singular object. The art by like Sid Mead and who's the other? That's like um, another artist that has like a um, sing sort of his own mononym. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Our artists, Tron, uh, the Tron, yeah. Anyways,
No,
um,
that's all right. I was looking up my last fun fact too while you did that. So go for it. Did you find the artist?
well, Sid Mead is one, and then I'm trying to find the other one who has like a really fun, goes by like one name. I know we referenced it.
Drawing a blank. At least you're not depending on ChatGPT like to help you out. You're doing the old-fashioned search.
Mobius. That's his name, Mobius. So it's almost like Morbius.
Mobius. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've heard you say that one before. Well,
Mhm.
perfect. You found it. And yeah, you had mentioned that, not in this episode, but before you had said that. Not
Yeah.
today. Okay, now my brain's going. My last thing that I was going to look up before we pop off is like, you were right. The production was 180. So far, they've brought in globally about 60, but Tron Legacy brought in 400. So there's an audience there. Maybe it just hasn't tapped into it yet. Economy, the government is shut down. There's a chance. There's a chance he'll hit what it needs.
Yeah, it's not the most raving reception, but I wasn't expecting that, and I don't know, just because of the limited appeal of Tron, I think amongst a really super broad movie-going audience, it might not necessarily pick up steam either. I just like that Jared Leto was in that Haunted Mansion movie, and that flopped super hard. I mean, Morbius flopped pretty hard.
I liked
Morbius,
Morbius too.
it might have actually made money technically, but it
Its
wasn't.
budget was probably a lot different than Tron.
I don't know. Yeah. There wasn't really, I mean, it was panned critically and stuff. So, yeah, I would love to see a sequel to Tron Ares, you know, within the next couple of years and continue the story and try to unite the world of Legacy. You know, it was hard for them to get a Tron sequel after Legacy off the ground after it wasn't just a resounding hit, but they were going to do it. One, the Disney live action had a couple high profile flops, particularly the Tomorrowland film, and that set them back. So they decided to cancel Tron 3. But they were also just so wrapped up in like Marvel and Star Wars, these major acquisitions that they had, that they didn't feel like they needed another big franchise for boys. So yeah, Tron got put on the back burner, and Marvel and Star Wars have been struggling lately. So like the time was right for them to just try something a little different with this new Tron film. And I want 10 more of these things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jared Leto, if you're listening, like produce one more for us. We're ready.
Maybe they do a series or something, maybe slightly more modestly budgeted episodes, and just at least kind of round out the story. Maybe bring back Sam Flynn and, Olivia Wilde's, Cora, and just try to unite, and form a bridge between all three Tron films into a nice, like, little, send
A
off.
little Toy Story 4. Yeah, something that pulls. And then they all went off and did a 5. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Put a little ribbon at the end. Something like that would be really nice. I agree. Well, good. We'll be back at some point. At least for sure for Wicked, which is November. So if you need breaks,
Mm-hmm.
take breaks. But there are things coming. I mean, once you hit the holiday season, the theater starts to pop off a little bit. The spirits get bright. People put lights outside their windows. Like you're gonna be feeling it.
I have been feeling a lot better. I yeah, my level of the animation in the Thoughtcast conversations about animation is mostly just referring to my own ambition, and it's just, I'm a person who struggles with a lot of things foolishly. I just, am hard on myself, but also I'm pulled in so many different directions, and podcasting can only ever be just like one sort of ancillary, or I don't know. I'll try to make it a bit more of a priority in the coming weeks, because I love hanging with you guys, but yeah, it can be sort of stressful trying to
Mm.
yeah, come up with something that I want people to at least, enjoy listening to. And yeah.
Well, I
um
listened to it. So you always got me out there. But no, I know we'll just ride the wave. We'll come as it comes and go as it goes. But
we
this has
there
been a great chat.
yeah.
I'm happy we got to go over it together. And I'm really happy that this was the movie you picked because I don't know if I would have caught it in theaters. And
Hmm.
it was great. It made my week.
I will try to, yeah, put something on the book soon. And even something like American Psycho would be great, just
Yeah.
thematically,
I would love to revisit that. And it is like Halloweenish time. So
yeah.
if there's a night where you end up watching it and you want to do like a 30, 45-minute thing, like I'm here for it.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. With Jared Leto on the brain. Yeah. I don't be surprised if American Psycho is the next Thoughtcast episode.
People are going to be like,
Uh,
they're really straying from the theme here of
but
animation. No, no, this was
it's
great. Okay,
it's the
let's wrap it.
animating, yeah, the animating force of inspiration. All
Yes.
right. Well, Jody, any final thing you want to say as we sign off?
No, I mean, I can't wait to be back. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you, and we will be back. So, this is Philip, host of the Thoughtcast, just wanting to wish you all a magical day and a wonderful week. And of course, end of line.